Thank you, and welcome to you. Great to chat with you last week and prepare for this. While we're here, it looks like you're the mayor of Atlanta, so seem to know absolutely everybody. But thanks for joining. I guess why don't we kick off with talking a little bit more about who you are. I know you got a diverse background, well outside of just tech or Square itself. So why don't we hear a little bit about that to start?
So I used to work here. So that's why it's been great seeing so many friendly faces. Worked at IHG, but yeah, I've only been at Square a year and a half, and it was my first foray into tech. My background has always been really in consumer marketing, primarily CPG. So started my career at Johnson and Johnson, worked at L'Oreal, worked at Kellogg's, worked at IHG. Left here, went to a startup owned by Procter and Gamble for a little bit, and then found my way to Square. Or I should say, they found me, kind of called me out the blue. And so, yeah, I've been doing the marketing thing for a very long time. Going back even further than that, about 20 years ago, I was a chemical engineer, and then realized that marketers have more fun. So, yeah, that's a quick overview of my background.
Amazing. So I think a lot of people have heard the name Square. I think everybody's interacted with a Square product, whether they know it or not. But why don't you let us know exactly who Square is and what you do? Because outside of those little point of sale pieces, I think there's a whole lot more behind the scenes.
It really is. So most people hear Square and they think about, where the company started when it was founded in 2009. They think of the little white reader, which was intended to help the little small mom and pop farmers market be able to accept credit cards and not just cash, because that was really inhibiting them because they couldn't do it previously. And Square has since grown, right, into a very large corporation in the Fortune 500. And we really have a whole ecosystem of solutions to help you power your business, whether it's starting your business, running it, growing it. So yes, we have the commerce piece. So the white readers are still floating out there, but more so you probably see our registers or our iPads and tools if you're paying at a restaurant or in a store. But even helping you run, back of house operations, whether it's a restaurant or again, retail, any type of business, things help you manage your staffing, whether it's payroll, or time sheets, helping you manage your customer management tools, marketing, loyalty tools, and even banking. Yes, we now have banking tools, so you can do your checking, savings with Square, which is great if you use us for your commerce, because then everything is all connected. And so that's really what we like to talk about today. Is we have a whole ecosystem of tools to help you run any kind of business, any size of business.
So big bag of products. You're an SVP of marketing. You've got a big bag of responsibilities. What specifically are you responsible for?
Yeah, so I actually lead global brand marketing, and so global brand marketing consists of 4 different teams. It is integrated marketing, so the teams that are doing our campaign, all of our campaign planning, and thinking about working with our media agency, developing creative, what you typically expect to see from brand campaigns. Experiential marketing, so that's all of our event activations, whether that's trade shows or other types of brand activations. Brand insights and strategy, which I call the foundation of everything. So market research, as well as our strategists really helping us, learn as much as we can about our target customers and then develop the growth strategies that then feed into everything else we do. And then a new team that I created December of last year, I joined, which is partnerships and sponsorships. There was just a huge opportunity for Square to be playing in that space, especially as we're going after larger businesses and trying to position ourselves as a player outside of just the smaller enterprises that people typically think of Square for.
So you mentioned brand. You're a B2B company. Why does brand matter?
I love this question so much. It's funny. As someone who spent her entire career in consumer marketing, I had the assumption that brand doesn't matter in B2B environments, right? That if you are a business owner and you have a $20 million enterprise and you're looking for a tool to run your business, you don't care about brand. You're looking at, okay, does this work? Like, you're very just logical and rational about it. And then I went and did a bunch, reading, there's tons of research on this, right? And it was fascinating. And as I thought about it, I was like, oh yeah, this actually makes sense. So you are a $20 million business owner and you need a tool to run your business. You want something that you trust and that is going to work, because if it doesn't, there's huge implications for your business, right? And so businesses are actually more likely to make a decision based off of brand than consumers, because the risk is so much higher. If you spend $5 on a bottle of, soda or detergent or something as a consumer and you don't like it, there's very low risk. Like, well, not going to buy that next time. But if you are a business owner and you spend millions of dollars outfitting your company for this new tool to run and it doesn't work, my God, right? You really have some problem. And so that's why brand is really important. And then the other piece of it that I failed to realize is that just because you are a business owner or a business person doesn't mean you stop being a human being. And the the behaviors that make humans lean towards brand, right? Those mental shortcuts where it's like, well, I know this, I've heard of this, so I'm going to go with that. That still applies in a business setting as well, right? Because that's just how we are as human beings are wired to think. So brand is actually even more important. And it's even more important to find ways to differentiate your products and set yourselves apart from the rest of the competitive set.
Speaking of competitors, you've got a very broad competitive set. There's people that will be in a specific industry. My girlfriend owns a hair salon. There's hair salon products and there's Square. I mean, we see it too with industry specific, tools that would compete with a Braze. Love to know what differentiates Square from, point solutions like that and the other offerings that are in the market.
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. So one of the differentiators of Square is our breadth. So you have some, and a lot of our competitors who are very specialized. So Shopify is one of our biggest competitors. Shopify is great if you are an online retail business, full stop. If you have any other type of business, they're trying to expand now. They're like, oh, well, we should do more than that. So we need to launch our own payment systems and registers and compete with Square because they were very niche. Same thing with another one of our big competitors, Toast. Toast only supports restaurant businesses. So you may go into a restaurant and see them using Toast. That's 100% what they specialize. They go very deep. And the way that Square approaches it is that, as I said, we can work for all businesses. So yes, we work for retail business. We work for online businesses. We work for in-person businesses. We work for, whether it's restaurants, retail, beauty salons. So we're competing against a lot of specialized tools as well as broader tools like Clover is a payment system that you see everywhere. So PayPal. So we have a very broad, and then globally, my God, head all sum up, there's even more. But we think that what differentiates us is the fact that we are broad and that we work for a broad set of businesses, which means we don't necessarily have to tailor our growth in one specific area. And that as we go deep and we add more tools to our different offerings, then that supports us. So as I mentioned with Shopify, right? They were online retail businesses, full stop. And they're realizing to grow, we have to expand. It's a lot harder to do that than it is for us to be broad and realize, oh, we can offer a new tool specifically for online retail businesses because we already have things in that space. So that's the way we really view that. If you want to play across multiple verticals, so let's say you're a restaurant, but now you want to have a retail component to your business. You want to sell, packaged goods online out of your restaurant. Toast can't do that, right? Toast is specifically to help you run your restaurant as a restaurant owner. They can't add on an additional revenue stream via retail. We can't. Right. So as you're thinking about growing and looking for new revenue streams for your business, Square can help you do that better than our competitors. And so it's about how do we tell that story and make that clear.
So the economy has been a big shift. We talked, some people hit on COVID earlier and what that did to businesses. And for a lot of small businesses, I mean, shut down, shut doors, PPP loans were required. Now we're in a world of they're back and now they got inflation. Like, how does this affect you and your role, selling to large businesses, small, mid-sized businesses, and everything in between?
Yeah, the biggest thing for us is staying as close to these sellers, as we call them, as possible. Because when these types of things happen, we need to know, okay, well, how does this change their needs or how does this change what they're going to be looking for us to do? And I wasn't at Square in 2020. But they handled it really well then because they've stayed close to the customer. We're doing that now, right? We just got some research back last week and trying to understand, and there's nuances, right? The smaller mom and pops are really nervous about everything that's going on with inflation and supply chain challenges and a pending recession, but the larger sellers, they're concerned, but they're more optimistic. So what they're looking for, they're like, we're still willing to spend money to grow. We're still willing to do. So it's like, oh, this is interesting. We need to really tailor our strategies for the larger businesses versus the smaller businesses. What do they really need right now? And I find that in times of hardship, the brands that are able to get really close to their customers and figure out what it is they need specifically and how they can deliver it against that, those are the ones that will win despite those hard times. So, Square grew throughout the recession by focusing on like, okay, we talked to restaurant owners, they can't hire staff right now. Man, we should really promote our tools that allow you to run your restaurant with a really lean staff. So things like QR codes. So now you automatically order, it goes to the back of the kitchen. You don't really need as much wait staff, which was a problem. They couldn't get it. So it's really being, attuned to what they need and okay, how do we either push what we have that meets that need, develop something that meets that need so that we can continue to grow and support them even throughout the tough times.
That's great. Laura shared a lot on inclusive marketing. Would love to hear what that means for Square.
Ooh, this is a good one. So they're all good ones. Sorry, just saying. So I think all brands are really talking about how do we ensure that the work we do represents the customer base that we serve. Square, what's really interesting is we serve business owners. And when we look at where the growth of new businesses is coming from, it is actually Black and brown business owners and Gen Z. The fastest growing segment is Black business owners. They are opening businesses at like a 30+% rate. Then you have Hispanic, right? And so for us, if we're thinking about growth of today, yes, it's not as much of those audiences. If we're thinking about how are we going to make sure that 10 years from now we're still growing, it's going after those groups now and courting them, as well as Gen Z, who is really going to be just the most entrepreneurial generation, I think, in history. It's kind of insane. And so for me, that means how are we ensuring that our message is reaching those audiences? Is it something specialized and targeted to them, right? So that they feel we are directly marketing to them versus all inclusive. We launched our first Spanish language campaign in September, trying to, again, be very intentional. We did a lot of research to understand. No one was really talking to this business owner audience in the US, which is crazy. There's a lot of them who speak Spanish. And so it's like, okay, we're going to talk to them. We're going to create our whole ecosystem in Spanish, everything on our web, all of our products, which we didn't have. So it was a very long exercise to get there before the campaign, but it's being intentional about where's the growth coming from. Don't just be thinking about who it is today. Because if it was today, I'd probably just be marketing to like boomers, that's who owns a lot of the larger businesses, right? You got to think about it. They've been in business for many years. Of course, that makes sense. But we've got to be thinking ahead and thinking about the future. And that's where the DE&I inclusion piece plays a big role. And that's why it's great for someone like me to be in a role and make sure that I've got a very diverse team so that we're thinking, I've got Gen Z people, which is crazy to think about, on my team, so that we can be very inclusive. I know it makes me feel so old when I think about it. I'm like, my God. Yeah.
Well, my team actually asked me what my kids use in terms of like new words so that they can be up to date on that. So
I don't even try.
It's a challenge.
I'm not on TikTok. Don't ask me about any of the. No, I embrace being old. It's okay.
Thank God, I'm with you. You've been at a number of brands. What are some of the brands out in the market today that you admire that you think are doing really neat things, really innovative things that you look up to and aspire to?
I love this question, and I always try to make sure I don't say expected brands. Because think about when people ask this question, the first I asked my husband just to test him. He's not in marketing, by the way, nothing related. And the first thing he said, oh, Apple, this and that. I was like, everybody says Apple. Give me something else. I was just to test. So it's like, I don't want to be the person who uses the same brand. So I really was thinking about this because there's a lot of brands who I admire for very different reasons. I admire Patagonia as a brand that really lives their mission. And to me, like really putting your money where your mouth is, that is like the epitome of, really just truth to power. And so I love that about them. I admire Disney for their whole, brand purpose of like magic and inclusivity and just habit. And it just comes to life across everything they do. Their content, their experiences, their films. Like I love that about Disney. I love Peloton. I am not a member of the Peloton cult, and it is a cult, and that's okay. My husband is. And when I worked here, there was a whole lot of people who, and I was so out of the loop, but everyone was always talking about Peloton. But I love them as an example of a brand who's really created a cult following. And that's to me like, man, they have really mastered this whole idea of brand love, which we all aspire to. And you can say they don't want, they got their issues. I'm not saying they don't. But that whole idea of like super loyal fans is something I think every brand in the world wishes they had, that kind of diehard ambassador like makeup of their fans. And then one more I'll think of. Oh, so this is interesting. The Jordan brand. And I say Jordan specifically, not Nike, because it's fascinating to me how Jordan is a sub-brand that has in many ways surpassed the parent brand. It has surpassed the legacy of Michael Jordan as a man. You've got people wearing, talk about kids, they've never seen Michael Jordan play. I was a diehard Michael Jordan. Like, they have no clue except who this man is in theory, but best believe they want those shoes. You know, and so like to me, that's just the epitome of like of longevity in a brand and creating something that outlasts even why or how it was started in the first place is fascinating to me. So like there's nuggets, you know, from a lot of different brands that I admire Wendy's and their approach to social, like their tone and how they're just so consistent in their voice. So it's like you can pick pieces of a lot of different brands and sort of package it up for why are they great and how do you unpack that and take the learning so that I could apply it to my business.
I love that. And we did not, well, I asked the question ahead of time, but you didn't give me the answer. So I didn't preface it by wearing the shoes before you mentioned them, but I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Open it up to questions from the audience. I mean, I could be up here all day, but you know, I want to let everybody else have a crack at you.
Slowly making my way. Oh, there you go. Beat me too. You all talked about innovation and how you're incorporating DE&I into your strategies for 2022 and the years to come. But can you talk a little bit more about what technology, what other things you guys are looking to innovate in 2023?
I can't tell you all of our product roadmap secrets. There
It.
might be some Shopify spies up in here. No, I'm totally kidding.
For a drink later, right?
Yeah. No. But it's a really good question. And what's so interesting to me is I feel like the lead times on this side, on tech, right, outside of the consumer space, are a lot longer, for example, than when I was on Pop-Tarts and we were launching a zillion new flavors every year. So it takes a really long time. Like, you know, we just launched Tap to Pay with Apple. That was a huge deal. Like, oh man, we finally have this integration where you could use Tap to Pay through, you know, through our products. We just launched that like a month ago. And so the way we look at it is going back to what I said, right? We've got breadth across all of these different audiences. We're not as deep as our competitors, and we fully recognize we don't have all the capabilities of a Toast for restaurants. And so when we go back and we think about what are the things that we think restaurant owners, as an example, really need to make them want to choose us over Toast? Or what are those big gaps? Or what do we see as the future focused opportunity with them? That's what we're thinking on and working on now. It takes a really long time. Our innovation leads very, 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 very long. Bless you. So I don't even know if I can tell you that there even would necessarily be something big that we're working on next year. We're working on a lot of things. I'm not sure if any of them will actually launch next year. But yeah, I'm sorry, I can't say more specifics.
Other questions? Oh,
You down there.
slowly make my way over to this side of the room.
I'm curious, as you're shifting away from the boomer business owners and more into Gen Z and people of color, is how that impacts the channels that you're on and your mix, your marketing mix, essentially.
It's a great question. I won't say we're moving away from boomer just get right. It's just that we're now expanding our focus to the future, right? So we still have a lot of our traditional things. We run print in the Wall Street Journal as an example, right? We get a lot of larger businesses through that because they're reading that. But as we're thinking about going after these new channels, our new audiences, we're looking at where are the channels we need to have a bigger presence. We need to have a bigger presence on YouTube, Gen Z's. We need to have a bigger presence on TikTok. So me aside, right, my team really focused on like, how should we be leveraging TikTok? It's massive because it was eye-opening to me that Gen Z uses YouTube and TikTok more for search than Google. I did not know that, right? Because I'm old and I use Google. But like, so it's like, we really need to be winning there. We need to be doing more from a partnerships and experiential space to go after, especially for the multicultural audiences, right? So Like we sponsored CultureCon for the last 2 years, which is a really big creator conference for Black and Brown business owners. We need to do more of those types of summits because a lot of it with them is it's early seeding. So like, how do we support them with education and how do we support them with starting the business? And so where can we show up? And so a lot of it may not be, online or even offline typical media channels. It's where can we connect and build the relationships in person via experiences or partnerships. There's some partnerships, big partnerships we're looking at launching next year, leveraging some celebrity talent to help us reach these audiences. So that's how we're thinking about it.
I had a similar question. I was going to say, how are you going after the new businesses? Like, and if they're new, it's like, how are you a partner to them as, kind of Square?
Right, and that's the keyword, partner, right? And we talk about that a lot because with new businesses, it's how do we help them thrive and sustain so they don't go out of business, in 3 years now. So it's going on this journey with them. It's providing the content that they need for anything that they've, like, how do you start a business, right? How do you get an LLC, or how do you open a business banking account? Or, we have all of this education material. And so it's like, how do we use it in the ways that will best support them? Is it putting on an educational summit, for anyone who wants to be a small business owner in key cities? But we do really view it as how do we partner? Because I view this as a long-term relationship. And the beauty is you get them in early when they're new and young, and you show that you support, and they will grow with you over time. They will adopt more products. And then when they become that $20, $50 million enterprise, they'll remember Square as the person who helped them get there and will continue to support. And then you've got your ambassador that will help tell the message. So it's really playing the long game, right? Which is, I'm not going to lie, it makes some people like Missy a little nervous. Like, but what are we doing to drive business now? It's like, well, we're still doing all the same base stuff we've been doing. But if we're not thinking ahead, we will be caught flat-footed and we will cede this space to our competition. And I don't want that to happen.
Oh, all right. You're gonna make me work for it, aren't you?
Making you walk all across the room.
That's all right. You may recognize I'm not Katie, by the way. She wore more comfortable shoes.
Congratulations for running your first Spanish campaign in September. And like you said, it takes a lot of planning and a long time to get there. And in marketing, it's about moving at the speed of light. So if you can give one advice to your younger self to move brands forward much quicker, what would that be?
Oh, that's a good question. Okay, I've never been asked that question before. Yeah, no, I'm gonna think because it's great. Like, cause we do have to, we're always challenged to move. I think the biggest thing for me, or advice I would give around if you want to move fast, it's a couple of things. It's one, be an expert on your consumer. Know all the update, because that's what's going to be the insight that's going to help you come up with those plans and be ahead. So know the competitive landscape, know your customer, know the trends, stay immersed in that regularly. The other thing that's going to help you is be able to then pull that all together into a compelling story that the organization and your cross-functional partners will want to work with you on. Because so much as marketers, at least in my career, when we got slowed down, is because we didn't bring someone along on the journey. They didn't have the right information. They didn't understand the vision. They didn't understand the story of what we were trying to do, because we were trying to move so fast. Like, oh, no, forget telling you that. If you do that in the beginning, to me, that super accelerates how quickly you can move on the back end. And so it's getting people bought in. Okay, why do we need to do this for Spanish-speaking business owners? What is that going to do? And you get people aligned, then we had literally the entire organization, because you have to do everything now in Spanish. Like, that's how we were able to do that in less than a year, right? Because we spent the time making sure people were brought along on the journey. So that's probably what I would say. Know all your data information to be able to package a story, so then you can sell people and bring them along on the vision. I hope that was a good answer. That was a good question. Yeah.
Any other? All right. Well, first of all, let me tell you, Tia, I am also a Square user because my son is in the marching band, and I have volunteered to run the concession stand. So we saw a lot of funnel cakes and fries, and Square helps us track everything that we're
love
selling.
it.
So thank you from the Cambridge High School Marching
Yes,
Band as well.
love it. We
But
thank you for
great-
your business.
Yeah, great session. Thank you so much, Steve. Thank you, Tia. It's great to see you again. Very helpful. And I love, all of the key takeaways. So thank you again.
Thank you guys.